Imagine spending years of your life on the front lines, risking everything to protect your country. But what if the very enemy you're hunting turns out to be much closer than you ever thought? What if the truth you discover shakes the core of everything you believed? Stay tuned to hear the shocking story of an FBI agent who went undercover to infiltrate a notorious gang and uncovered a secret about his own family that would change his life forever. Agent Luke Carter had been in the FBI for over 10 years, working his way through countless investigations and undercover operations. Yet, nothing had prepared him for the assignment he was handed that day. Sitting across from his superior, Special Agent Monroe, Luke could sense the weight of the mission in the room. "You're going deep on this one, Carter," Monroe said, sliding a file across the table. "We've been tracking the Black Phoenix gang for months now. They're involved in everything from arms dealing to human trafficking, but the leader, Darius the Dragon Hawk, is elusive. He's got connections in all the right places, and no one has been able to get close." Luke glanced at the file. Pictures of Darius, his inner circle, and blurry images of their operations filled the pages. It was a dangerous assignment, one that would require him to blend into a world of crime, drugs, and violence. "What's the angle?" Luke asked, looking up from the file. "We need someone who can infiltrate from the inside. You're going to pose as a new recruit. We've planted a few false rumors about your criminal past in the right places. They'll find you, Carter. But once you're in, we need you to get close to Darius. Find out what he's planning and bring him down." Luke nodded. It wasn't the first time he had gone undercover, but this mission felt different. The stakes were higher. Darius wasn't just a small-time criminal. He was a man with connections that stretched far beyond the city. And the deeper Luke went, the harder it would be to come back. But Luke was used to danger. It was part of the job. What he didn't know, however, was that this mission would take him down a dark path, one that would unravel secrets about his own family that no one, not even he, could have anticipated. Luke spent the next few days preparing for the mission, studying everything he could about the Black Phoenix gang. He worked with a team of operatives, each one giving him advice and insights into the criminal underworld he was about to enter. The plan was simple: get in, earn their trust, and gain access to their operations. The night he was set to meet the gang, Luke was nervous but resolute. He dressed in plain black clothes to blend in and made sure his weapon was secure, though he hoped it wouldn't be needed. This wasn't supposed to be a violent mission. It was about gathering intel and taking down the gang from the inside. The rendezvous point was a rundown warehouse in the industrial district, a place where rival gangs often made deals and traded goods. As he entered, he felt a palpable tension in the air. Luke wasn't just walking into a warehouse. He was walking into the heart of darkness. The scent of sweat and smoke filled the air, and the low murmur of voices whispered around him. A tall, muscular man approached him. "You, Luke? The guy with the dirty past?" Luke kept his expression neutral, trying to mask the unease that churned inside him. "That's me." "Good," the man said, grinning. "You're just the type we're looking for. Let's see if you've got what it takes to run with us." Luke followed the man through a maze of corridors, down to a basement where the gang held their meetings. The room was dimly lit, with a long table at the center where several men and women sat, all eyeing him suspiciously. Darius wasn't there yet, but the tension in the room was thick. Luke took a seat at the table, trying to remain calm as the initiation began. The gang tested him, asking questions about his criminal history, his skills, and his loyalty. It wasn't easy, but Luke managed to keep his cool, playing the part of the hardened criminal who was looking for a way in. When Darius finally walked into the room, the air seemed to shift. The man was imposing, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. His reputation preceded him, and Luke knew that this was the moment of truth. If he couldn't win Darius's trust, the mission would fail before it even began. The first few weeks of Luke's undercover operation were grueling. Every day was a test of his ability to blend in and earn the gang's trust. He spent his days running errands for Darius, handling illegal shipments, and running small-time cons. His nights were spent in dingy bars, rubbing elbows with criminals and trying to get valuable intel. At first, Luke struggled with the constant need to suppress his true identity. He couldn't afford to show any weakness, any sign of hesitation. His life, as well as the success of the mission, depended on him becoming a part of this world. But as time went on, he began to grow closer to Darius's inner circle. He was trusted with more important tasks, including transporting cash for the gang's operations and accompanying Darius to meetings with high-profile clients. Slowly but surely, Luke was becoming indispensable to the gang. One evening, Darius pulled him aside after a successful deal. The two men stood in the shadow of the building, the sound of distant traffic humming in the background. "You're doing well, Luke," Darius said, his voice low and measured. "I'm starting to like you. You've got what it takes. You're loyal. I respect that." Luke nodded, keeping his expression neutral. He had to keep up the act, but inside, he was beginning to feel a sense of unease. There was something about Darius that didn't sit right with him. The man was ruthless, calculating, and seemingly invincible. But that wasn't what troubled Luke the most. It was the fact that the deeper he got into the gang, the more he began to see familiar faces, people he recognized from his childhood, his family's old connections. As he spent more time with the gang, it became impossible to ignore the disturbing truth. His own family, his parents and older brother, were involved in the gang's operations, and no one had ever told him. One fateful night, Luke's worst fears were confirmed. He had been assigned to oversee a sensitive deal, a transfer of illegal firearms from one of the gang's suppliers. As he stood in the back room of an abandoned warehouse, overseeing the operation, he heard a familiar voice. "Luke, you're doing great, son. You've really proved yourself." Luke's heart stopped. He turned to see his father, Robert Carter, standing in the doorway, a grin on his face. His father, the man who had raised him to become an FBI agent, was standing there, casually exchanging pleasantries with the gang members, as if he had always been one of them. "What the hell is this?" Luke muttered under his breath, his mind racing. His father looked at him, the familiar warmth in his eyes replaced by something darker. "You didn't think we were just law-abiding citizens, did you? You think I haven't been protecting the family? I've been making sure our connections are strong. You think your mother and brother are innocent? Think again, Luke." The words hit Luke like a hammer. His family, the ones he had trusted and loved all his life, were involved in the gang, pulling strings from the shadows. He had been raised to fight for justice, to protect people, and now he was faced with the brutal truth that the very people he had sworn to protect had been living a lie. The betrayal stung, but Luke knew he had a decision to make. His loyalty was being tested in ways he never expected. Could he continue with the mission and bring down the gang, even if it meant betraying his own flesh and blood? Or would he walk away and try to confront his family's dark secrets? In the following days, Luke struggled with the weight of the revelation. The discovery about his family's involvement in the gang shook him to his core. He had always believed that his father was an honorable man, someone who had worked hard to give his family a good life. But now, Luke was faced with the truth. His father was one of the most influential figures in the gang, orchestrating some of the darkest operations from behind the scenes. Luke spent long hours alone, walking through the city streets trying to process everything. He had always believed in the mission, the idea of bringing criminals to justice, no matter the cost. But this was different. His father, his mother, his brother. How could he bring them down? How could he betray the people who had raised him? The more Luke thought about it, the more his conscience gnawed at him. He knew he couldn't walk away. The gang was dangerous, and Darius was planning something catastrophic that could affect thousands of innocent people. Luke's duty as an FBI agent was clear, even if it meant losing his family forever. The decision came to a head one evening when Darius summoned Luke to a private meeting. As Luke entered the room, he saw his father sitting across from Darius, both men locked in a tense conversation. "I've been thinking about our next step," Darius said, his voice cold. "We're about to make a big move, Luke. You've earned your place here. Your family's been backing us for years, and now it's time for you to prove your loyalty." Luke's heart raced. He had two choices. He could continue playing the game, feeding the gang with information and securing his family's position, or he could finally do what he had been trained to do. take them down from the inside. "I'm in," Luke said, his voice betraying no emotion. But as he spoke those words, a small part of him died inside. He wasn't just betraying the gang, he was betraying his own blood. The man who had raised him had made a deal with the devil. And now, Luke had to face the consequences. Sometimes the biggest battle isn't against the criminals we hunt, but against the people we trust the most. What would you do if you found out your own family was involved in something so dark? Would you sacrifice them for justice? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more shocking stories of crime, betrayal, and undercover missions. Stay tuned for the next chapter in this gripping saga.